Side 2 begins with Little Lies. Co-written between keyboardist Christine McVie and her then husband Eddie Quintella. Considering how she still bears the surname of her ex-husband John, whom she divorced far back in 1976, this must have made things a bit awkward. Anyways, this opens with a somewhat alluring yet slightly foreboding synth melody, resetting the general tone of the album quite well. Then some of the instruments soon kick in about 15 seconds in, the drums of Mick Fleetwood and a bit of bass from John McVie. Christine sings about how she could turn a page and she'd be able to rearrange in time for a day or two at least. But then she admits that she couldn't find a way, so she'd have to settle for one day believing in a particular person, whom of course she sings about in the second person. Then in that familiar and recognizable chorus, she, along with the backing vocals of Lindsey Buckingham and Stevie Nicks, sing to us to tell her sweet little lies and that we can't disguise, as if the romantic and possibly sexual feelings she has for this individual aren't being reciprocated, so she demands him to lie about it, that he does indeed love her back in return, even though deep down, he really doesn't. As some may say, it's either a sweet lie or a bitter truth. And like most of Christine's songs in Rumours and Mirage, this could likely be about her past relationship with John, although both had already been married to other people, so again, probably awkward. Mind you, her then husband did, like I said, co-write this, but still. Oh, by the way, Christine and Eddie were divorced anyway in 2003, and he'd passed away just 2 years ago in 2020. So when it's not old Fleetwood Mac members dying in recent years, it's their ex-spouses. Next is Family Man. Co-written between guitarist Lindsey Buckingham and producer Richard Dashard, who helped in producing Rumours, Tusk, Mirage, Time, and of course this album. The music is much more lighthearted compared to songs like Big Love, Seven Wonders, and Little Lies, with its quirky synth and skippy beat. In this, Lindsey sings about walking down this road when said road ends up getting rough. And as Billy Ocean would say, when the going gets tough, the tough get going. He then falls down, then he gets up, and then he gets knocked down again because, well, he's in the middle of the road and there are cars going by. You should at least watch wherever's going. Then in the chorus, with its repeating backing vocals from Lindsey himself, plus a deep low pitch one of his, again demonstrating his use of voice altering like with Big Love. He comes to terms with being who and what he is, a family man, even though he hasn't exactly had any children at that time. And it's not to be confused with that Michael Field song in the exact same name, which I looked at back in my 5 Miles Out review several months ago. Maybe this is a stealth prequel to that song. Then Lindsey mentions and repeats a few family honorifics, such as mother, father, and brother. Wait, no mention or consideration of sister as well? And after each chorus, we also get a pretty sweet Spanish-sounding guitar, as well as what sound like castanets, riding home that old tango motif, similar to Big Love. If you were to play the song out loud in public, don't be surprised if you see someone going into a fancy flamenco foxtrotty dance or something like that. Then in the second verse, Lindsey walks down the same stretch of road in the cool of the night. And he doesn't know what's wrong, but he does know what's right. So he goes by the whole see no evil, hear no evil, and speak no evil mentality. Good for him. But of course, poor Stevie doesn't get much involvement in this one either. Man, what is it with Lindsey Buckingham songs and not having Stevie Nicks in any of them at all? Did they have like some kind of breakup or something? Oh wait. Moving on. After that is Welcome to the Room, ... Sarah. The ellipses is very essential to this. Written by vocalist Stevie Nicks, this was inspired by her time in rehab to help with her coke addiction. And she went by that name presumably to hide her identity. So in this, she's likely singing to herself in the second person perspective, debating with herself about her lifestyles, her life choices, the mistakes she made in the past, etc. I know I joked earlier about Stevie not being involved in Lindsey's songs. However, there might be a little reason and truth for such when it comes to this album at least. She did apparently record some vocals for Lindsey's and Christine's tracks, and when she did, she was mostly intoxicated. And so, Lindsey deleted such recordings from his own tracks, likely because of that. And another fact, one of the lines in this song, downstairs where the big old house is mine and upstairs where the stars laugh and shine, was partially recycled from a previous song Stevie Nicks had made, Blue Lamp, from the soundtrack for the film Heavy Metal. And yes, Stevie Nicks did do a song for the Heavy Metal film. Pretty cool. All this aside though, this is still a pretty decent song from Stevie, even if it's not exactly on par with tracks like Dreams, I Can't Wait, or Edge of 17. Then we have Isn't It Midnight? Well, as Clive from Late Night Double Feature would put it, it's always midnight somewhere. This one composed by Christine, Eddie, and Lindsey, so a three-person effort this time round, and boy does this stand out from the rest. In a good way. This track goes for a more 80s hard rock style, which I always love. It kind of reminds me a lot of Beat It by Michael Jackson, or something out of Bon Jovi or Van Halen. The song's also in the Aeolian mode, a natural minor scale which a few other songs use, such as White Flag by Dido, Losing My Religion by R.E.M., In the Air Tonight by Phil Collins, and even Shine On You Crazy Diamond by Pink Floyd. Very interesting connections and commonalities there. And in the lyrics, Christine kind of recollects about an individual person as being cool, calm, and having a rakish style. Is Christine McVie a rake fangirl? I kind of hope she doesn't make any fan arts as such. My friend Agent Mays, he despises fan art of creepypasta characters. You might guess why so. Actually, she seems to be trying to and attempting to make this man remember who she is and what he was like before, as if the two had a relationship long ago before, and now he's either forgot about it or deliberately repressed and suppressed any and all memory of it. Her poor heart had never connected, so she needs to reboot her Wi-Fi connection then. And this person stays so long in her mind. I guess you can say she's living in her head rent-free, eh? Anyways, the key slightly changes as we enter the chorus itself, where Christine questions if it's midnight on the other side of the world. Which would mean wherever she's at, it'd have to be about 12 o'clock at noon. Then she asks if he remembers the face of a pretty girl. Then in the middle of the track, Lindsey offers another dog-bollocking guitar solo on par with the solo from Go Your Own Way, showing that even a whole decade later, Lindsey still got it. The song is pretty, well, cool, collected, and pretty. It's a bit like Stevie Nicks' I Can't Wait. If it was the other Mac members instead of her. However, plus in retrospect, Stevie herself had considered this, along with some of Lindsey's other songs in this album, to be his best contributions to any of the albums. Although, shouldn't this also be called Face of a Pretty Girl, since that phrase seems to be repeated more often than Isn't It Midnight and actually consists most of the chorus? Next is the penultimate song, When I See You Again. Another one from Stevie, and this time around, she settles for a much more softer pop ballad, similar to Mystified, albeit with a more bittersweet tone, not just in its music, but also its lyrics as well. Accompanied by mostly a slow guitar and synth, Stevie questions whether it'll be the same or it'll be over when they meet again. Then there's that harmonic chorus simply asking over and over, "What's the matter, baby?" Well, if I were to answer, I was totally fighting some ninjas that were invading my home and we threw onions at each other. There's totally nothing wrong with the matter with me, no. But in the second verse, she walks slowly down this hall where there are so many doors. No doubt she'll encounter a few cabin crawlers on their way to the chamber of 32 doors. And she stares at the stairs, which she's probably having a staring contest with the stairs, although I don't think she'll be able to win this one. And after the second chorus, she starts to channel a bit of Freddie Mercury as she sings about how the dream says, "I want you," and then said dream is suddenly gone. So she stays up all night. After which, Lindsay steps in to sing the first verse, as if in the form of an echo or reflection for the remainder of the track. Maybe he feels the exact same way that she does. It could likely represent the strange relationship between Stevie and Lindsay up to then. And another interesting fact, when kind of recording and producing this album, Lindsay had to kind of cut up and reassemble separate recorded takes of Stevie's vocals, as if to kind of patch them together and kind of pick together which one sounded best and kind of just stitch them into the final result. Which I gotta give props for. As someone who kind of records music and has to record my own amateur vocals, I can understand how that may feel. But aside from that, the song itself, however, doesn't necessarily have to just be about the aftermaths of a breakup. It could also mean the coping of a close or loved one's death and passing. So it kind of works in more ways than one, which I always have to commend. And so our album concludes with You and I Part 2. Once again composed between Christine and Lindsay. Whereas You and I Part 1, it ended up being the B-side to Big Love. Why was it scrapped and why did it end up being a B-side? Beyond me. And like with Rumours and Mirage, no song written by either Mick Fleetwood or John McVie, the remaining founders of the very band and its very name. Although, to be fair, I couldn't find any studio album that featured at least one track penned by either since their fourth album, Kiln House, and back in 1970. So, 17 years and barely anything. Anyways, this song ends the album on a somewhat happy note, with its semi-tropical musical style, as if we found a new light in life after the heartbreaks and unrequited loves of previous songs up to here. Lindsay sings to us how he wakes up with eyes shut tight, hoping that tomorrow never comes, as if he wishes to escape the realities and consequences that may come with it. And after which, with repeated U's and a single I, as if he's in a way pointing to several individual people in an audience from a stage or something like that. Then he tells us to keep our hearts and our eyes shut tight as well, our hearts open and our eyes shut tight as well, while not to forget about him. although I'd guarantee him that a lot of his fangirls may never will forget him. And soon enough, it just kind of ends, or rather fades and stops. It's not necessarily a bad song, it just feels like a weird way to end out this whole album, especially when this is supposed to be Lindsay's last hurrah with Fleetwood Mac. But regardless, this album is still pretty excellent. The music is well varied and yet consistent, and the production value is very decent. Songs like Everywhere, Caroline, Family Man, Isn't It Midnight, and the title track are special highlights to me at least. But the album as a whole remains a great example of atmospheric pop rock music, even from the 80s. Even if you've heard a few songs from this album, I recommend listening to the whole thing from start to finish. You might be in for a little tango. Plus, this album would prove to be the last album of that classic lineup, as Lindsey Buckingham would soon leave the band later that year in 1987, and this would start the gradual decline of the band as a whole for most of the 90s, but that will be another day. Later this week, I'll be attending a big folky festival and maybe a little trip to Barcelona, so expect another slight delay or so. But still, next time we'll be visiting another Alan Parsons Project album. And you better be careful, for there's an eye in the sky, and it can read your mind and cheat you blind.